arrogant billionaire spits on black waitress not knowing she is his long-lost sister. What if the person you hurt the most turned out to be the one you'd been searching for your entire life? The rain drummed against the windows of Marcello's, an upscale restaurant in downtown Chicago, as 43-year-old businessman Theodore Kane adjusted his platinum cufflinks and scowled at his watch. He'd just closed a deal worth $40 million, but nothing seemed to satisfy the emptiness that had been growing inside him for years. Ever since his parents died in that car accident when he was 18, leaving him with a fortune but no family, Theodore had built walls around his heart so high that even he couldn't see over them anymore. He treated people like chess pieces, moving them around to serve his purposes without ever thinking about their feelings. But tonight, fate was about to serve him a lesson he'd never forget. Tonight, his carefully controlled world was about to collide with a truth that would shatter everything he thought he knew about himself. Where are you watching from tonight? The restaurant hummed with the quiet conversations of Chicago's elite, crystal glasses clinking softly as servers moved between tables like dancers in an expensive ballet. Theodore had chosen this place specifically because it reminded him of his power. Every meal here cost more than most people made in a week, and that knowledge usually brought him a twisted sense of satisfaction. He'd grown up in foster care after his parents' death, bouncing between homes where he was either ignored or treated like a burden, and somewhere along the way, he decided that money was the only thing that could protect him from ever feeling powerless again. As he waited for his business partner to arrive, Theodore's eyes swept the dining room with the cold calculation of a man who saw everything in terms of profit and loss. His phone buzzed constantly with notifications from his various enterprises, real estate developments, tech startups, investment portfolios that made money while he slept. But none of it filled the hollow space where his heart used to be. Across the restaurant, 37-year-old Monica Williams balanced 3 plates on her arm with the practiced grace of someone who'd been waiting tables for 15 years. Her dark eyes held a warmth that hadn't been dimmed despite working double shifts to support her aging grandmother and pay for night school classes. She'd been at Marcello's for 2 years now, and while the wealthy patrons could be demanding, the tips helped her inch closer to her dream of becoming a nurse. Monica had her own painful history with family. She'd been raised by her grandmother after being found abandoned at a hospital as an infant, with nothing but a small silver locket that contained a photo of a young couple she'd never been able to identify. Her grandmother had given her the name Williams, and together they'd built a life filled with love despite having so little money that some weeks they lived on nothing but rice and beans. But Monica had learned that dignity didn't come from bank accounts, it came from how you treated people, especially when they couldn't do anything for you in return. Theodore's business partner was running late, and his patience was wearing thin. He'd already sent back his water twice, complaining that it wasn't cold enough, and when Monica approached with a warm smile to offer him an appetizer while he waited, something in her genuine kindness only made his mood darker. People like her reminded him of what he'd lost, of the person he used to be before the world taught him that caring about others only led to pain. "I don't want anything," he snapped, not bothering to look up from his phone. "And tell your manager that the service here has become unacceptable. I'm Theodore Kane, and I expect better treatment than this." Monica's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered her composure. She'd dealt with difficult customers before, but something about this man's coldness felt particularly sharp tonight. Still, she maintained her professional demeanor, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. "Honey, some folks are mean because they're hurting inside. That doesn't make it right, but it makes it easier to forgive." Little did either of them know that the silver locket resting against Monica's heart contained the faces of Theodore's own parents, and that the truth about their connection was about to explode into both their lives in the most devastating way possible. Theodore's business partner finally arrived, bringing with him the kind of deal that would normally have Theodore's full attention, a massive hotel development project that could net them both hundreds of millions. But tonight, something felt different. As Harold Sheffield slid into the booth across from him, Theodore found himself distracted by the sound of gentle laughter from a nearby table where Monica was serving an elderly couple their anniversary dinner, her genuine warmth making their faces light up like Christmas morning. "You seem off tonight, Ted," Harold observed, cutting into his expensive steak. "This Azerbaijan project should have you excited. We're talking about cornering the entire luxury hotel market in Eastern Europe." Theodore forced his attention back to business, but every few minutes his eyes drifted to Monica. There was something about her that nagged at him, like a song he'd heard before but couldn't quite remember. When she bent down to help the elderly woman with her napkin, the gesture reminded him of someone from long ago, a fleeting memory of gentle hands and soft humming that disappeared as soon as he tried to grasp it. "I want those permits filed by Monday," Theodore said curtly, signing documents without his usual careful review. "And make sure the zoning committee understands what happens to people who get in my way." As Harold droned on about construction timelines, Monica approached their table again. She'd noticed that Theodore barely touched his food, and despite his earlier rudeness, something about his haunted expression stirred her compassion. "Excuse me, sir," she said gently, "is everything all right with your meal? You haven't eaten much." Theodore looked up sharply, irritated by the interruption. "Are you being paid to psychoanalyze me, or to serve food? Because you're failing at both." The cruelty in his voice made Monica step back, but she kept her professional smile in place. "I'm sorry, I was just concerned." "Well, don't be," Theodore cut her off. "I don't need concern from someone who spends her life bringing other people their dinner. Some of us have real responsibilities." Harold shifted uncomfortably in his seat, embarrassed by his partner's behavior. Around them, other diners had begun to notice the exchange, whispers rippling through the elegant dining room like ripples on a disturbed pond. Monica felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she held her ground. "Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, sir. I'm just trying to do my job." "Your job," Theodore said, his voice growing louder, "is to be invisible. To bring what I order and disappear. I don't pay premium prices to be bothered by the help." But as the words left his mouth, something unexpected happened. Monica's hand moved unconsciously to the locket at her throat, and for just a moment, Theodore caught sight of the delicate silver chain. The sight hit him like a physical blow, dragging up a memory so painful he'd buried it for 25 years. His mother's gentle fingers adjusting an identical locket as she tucked him into bed the night before the accident that would destroy everything. The moment stretched between them like a bridge neither understood, filled with the weight of recognition that lived deeper than consciousness. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up. The dining room had grown quiet around them, and Theodore realized that his next words would either escalate this situation into something ugly, or give him a chance to step back from the edge of becoming someone he might not be able to live with. But the pain of that memory, combined with 25 years of carefully constructed emotional armor, was about to drive him toward the worst decision of his life. Theodore's vision blurred as the memory crashed over him. His mother's last morning, her gentle hands adjusting that silver locket as she kissed his forehead and promised they'd be back from their anniversary dinner before midnight. He'd been 18, already accepted to Harvard Business School, with dreams of making his parents proud and building something meaningful with his life. But the drunk driver who ran that red light had stolen everything, leaving him alone in a world that suddenly felt hostile and cold. The pain of remembering made him lash out like a wounded animal. "You know what?" he said, his voice rising as other diners turned to stare. "I'm sick of people like you thinking you deserve my respect just for existing. You're a waitress. Nothing more, nothing less." Monica's composure finally cracked. 20 years of struggling, of being looked down on by people who thought money made them better than everyone else, of watching her grandmother work her fingers to the bone cleaning rich people's houses. It all came pouring out. "And what exactly do you think makes you so special?" she said, her voice shaking with controlled anger. "Your expensive suit? Your fancy watch? I've seen your type my whole life. People who think they can treat others like garbage because they have money in the bank." "At least I have money in the bank," Theodore shot back, standing up so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. "At least I didn't waste my life serving other people's leftovers." The entire restaurant had gone silent now, servers and diners alike frozen in shock at the ugly scene unfolding before them. Harold grabbed Theodore's arm, trying to pull him back into his seat, but Theodore shook him off. "You want to know what I think?" Theodore continued, his voice carrying across the silent dining room. "I think people like you are exactly where you belong. Some people are meant to serve, and others are meant to be served. That's just the natural order of things. Monica's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of rage, not defeat. My grandmother raised me to believe that every person has dignity, no matter what they do for a living. She cleaned houses for 60 years, and she was worth 10 of you. Your grandmother sounds like she knew her place, Theodore said, and the moment the words left his mouth, he knew he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. The look of pure hurt that flashed across Monica's face made something twist painfully in his chest, but the armor around his heart was too thick to let him take it back. What happened next would haunt Theodore for the rest of his life. In his fury and pain, in his desperate need to hurt someone else as much as he was hurting, he did something that 25 years ago would have horrified the idealistic young man he used to be. He reached for his water glass and threw its contents at Monica, the ice-cold water hitting her uniform and making her gasp. But as the water dripped from her face, something fell from around her neck. The silver locket, its chain broken by the force of his action. The locket hit the floor and popped open, revealing two small photographs that made Theodore's blood turn to ice in his veins. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments. Because staring up at him from the restaurant floor were the faces of his own parents. The same photos he kept locked in his safe at home, the only things he had left of the family he'd lost so long ago. The restaurant remained frozen in absolute silence as Theodore stared down at the photographs that had just shattered his entire world. His father's kind eyes and his mother's gentle smile gazed up at him from the locket, the same faces that haunted his dreams and filled his most precious memories. The impossible truth crashed over him like a tidal wave. This woman he'd just humiliated, this person he'd treated with such cruelty, was his sister. Monica knelt to gather the broken locket, her hands trembling as she carefully picked up the photographs. "These are my parents," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "The only clue I have about who I am or where I came from." Theodore's legs gave out, and he sank back into his chair as 25 years of carefully constructed walls came crashing down around him. "Catherine and James Montgomery," he said, his voice cracking. Their names were Catherine and James Montgomery. Monica's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. "How do you know their names? How could you possibly?" "Because they were my parents too." The words came out as barely a whisper, but in the silence of the restaurant, everyone heard them. "They died in a car accident 25 years ago. I was 18. I thought I was the only one left." Harold shifted uncomfortably in his seat, realizing he was witnessing something far too personal and painful for public consumption. Around them, other diners had the decency to look away, but Theodore and Monica were oblivious to everyone else in the room. "That's impossible," Monica said, but even as she spoke, she could see the truth written in Theodore's face. The same dark eyes she saw in her mirror every morning, the same stubborn jawline, even the same small scar above the left eyebrow. Details she'd never noticed because she'd never had reason to look for family resemblance in a stranger. Theodore pulled out his wallet with shaking hands and removed a worn photograph. The same image that was in Monica's locket, but his copy showed the whole family. A young Theodore stood between their parents, and in their mother's arms was a baby girl with dark curls and bright, curious eyes. "Monica Elizabeth Montgomery," he said, reading the notation on the back of the photograph. "Born December 15th. You were 2 when they died. I thought." His voice broke completely. "I thought you died in the accident with them. The social worker told me there were no other family members. No one else survived." Monica's world tilted on its axis as the truth sank in. The brother she'd dreamed about, the family she'd spent her entire life searching for, had been living in the same city all along. But instead of the joyful reunion she'd imagined, their first meeting had been marked by cruelty and humiliation that could never be taken back. "All these years," she whispered, "I've been looking for you. I used to imagine what my family was like, what my brother might be like." Tears streamed down her face as she looked at the man who'd just thrown water at her, who'd called her worthless, who'd shattered her dignity in front of a room full of strangers. "I never imagined this." Theodore reached toward her, then stopped, his hand hanging in the air between them. "Monica, don't," she said, backing away from the table. "Just don't. If you've been enjoying this story, Subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. But as Monica turned to leave, Theodore realized that losing her again, especially like this, would destroy what little humanity he had left, and he knew he had only seconds to find the words that might save them both. "Please," Theodore said, his voice breaking as he stood up. "Please don't go. Not like this. Not again." Monica stopped at the edge of the dining room, her shoulders shaking with the weight of 25 years of questions finally answered in the cruelest possible way. Around them, the restaurant remained silent, as if the entire room understood they were witnessing something sacred and tragic unfolding. "I looked for you," Theodore continued, his voice carrying across the quiet space. "Every year on their anniversary, I hired private investigators. I searched through records, followed every lead. They told me you died with them. I grieved for you for 25 years. He took a shaky step toward her. And when they told me there was no one left, something inside me just broke. I decided that if the world could take away everything I loved, then I'd never let myself love anything again." Monica turned slowly, tears streaming down her face as she looked at this stranger who was her brother. This broken man who'd become everything their parents would have been ashamed of. "So you decided to become someone who hurts people instead?" "Yes," he admitted, his honesty raw and painful. "I became exactly the kind of person who would have disgusted the boy our parents raised. I became someone who could look at his own sister and see nothing but someone to crush under his heel." The weight of that admission hung between them like a bridge that might either connect them or collapse entirely. Monica's hand went to her throat where the broken locket had been, feeling the absence of the only connection she'd had to her family. "I still have their last letter," Theodore said quietly. "They wrote it the morning of the accident. Dad was talking about expanding his business so they could adopt more children. Mom wrote about how excited she was to watch us grow up together, to see what kind of adults we'd become." His voice cracked. "She wrote that she hoped we'd always take care of each other." Monica closed her eyes, imagining the parents she'd never known, the dreams they'd had for their children. "What would they think of us now?" "They'd be heartbroken," Theodore said without hesitation. "They'd look at what I became, and they'd be ashamed. But they'd also see you. They'd see someone who chose kindness despite growing up with nothing, someone who treats strangers with more grace than I've shown anyone in 25 years. They'd be so proud of who you are." Monica was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with emotions too complex for words. Finally, she spoke. "I can't just forgive you, Theodore. What you did tonight, what you said, that's going to stay with me. But..." She looked at him, really seeing him for the first time. "But you're still my brother. And maybe that's enough to start with." Theodore nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I don't deserve your forgiveness. But if you'll let me, I'd like to spend the rest of my life trying to become the brother our parents wanted you to have. The brother you deserved all along." Monica picked up the broken locket from the floor and handed him half of the chain. "Then let's start with learning how to be family." As they left the restaurant together, neither of them knew what the future would hold, but for the first time in 25 years, neither of them was walking through the world alone. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey about the power of family, forgiveness, and second chances.